Welcome to the Inspire and Rewire podcast, where everything we do involves bettering your life in some way, shape, or form. Today, we will hit the topic right away. We're going to be talking about a hero's journey, victimization, being a teacher, or one of the three anyway. Isaiah, how you doing today, brother?
Great. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Staying blessed and out the way. Staying blessed and out the way. You got enough battery this time so we can get our audience what they deserve? I
Hey, probably.
like it, brother. Well,
Yep.
yeah, start us off with the topic today, man. Start us off with the topic, identity.
Yeah, I was reading something and it was basically saying how in every story there's only four characters. Usually, obviously there can't be, but usually the main four characters are the victim, the hero, the helper or the teacher, and the villain. And pretty much in life, when we go through obstacles and challenges and different stories and different things, we're going to have opportunities to identify with all four of these things. And the main thing it was saying was the hero and the villain have the same background. They usually had a hard life. They usually went through something traumatic that changed them forever. But the only difference is the hero said, life hurt me. I'm going to make sure nobody else feels this way. And the villain said, life hurt me. I want to hurt everybody else now. And the victim says, life hurt me. There's nothing I can do about it. You know what I mean? So that's like the main identities. And if you start to see this, you'll start to see how applicable this really is to every single situation in life. And the helper or the teacher is somebody who was just a helper or a teacher so long that they became a hero. Or they're the helper, the teacher that helps people become heroes.
Yeah, that's fire.
Actually, I said it backwards. The helper, the hero is just somebody who was a helper or teacher so long they became a hero.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's fire. When you brought it to my attention in this way of describing it, I thought it fit so perfectly. It checks, like if you just categorize everything into these four things, it really does make sense with everything in life. And one thing that I was mentioning to Isaiah a couple hours earlier, we were on the phone and I was telling him that, it's funny because one thing that I absolutely cannot stand is people who live in victimhood. And I've noticed that about myself because I used to be sympathetic towards people who felt, victims or acted upon victimhood. I used to be sympathetic towards that. And I don't know if it's just everything that I've gone through in life or all the adversity that has shaped me into the man I am today, but I can't feel bad for people who live in victimhood. They're honestly annoying to me. And so when you described, people are either victims or they're heroes, it made perfect sense to me because, I know some people who have a similar background to what I've had. And Isaiah has mentioned it to me before. With my background, I chose to thrive in it. I didn't let my background hold me down or drag me down. I didn't accept myself as a victim or even think of myself as a victim. I knew that the cards that I was dealt in life were the cards that I was dealt, and hey, I got to make the best out of the situation. But other people within the same circumstances as myself took instead of being a hero, they took the other path of being a victim. And it all comes down to choice. So that really, really resonated with me, the whole hero and victim thing for sure. And the fact that a hero is just a hero because they were a teacher for so long, they became a hero. It just resonates even more because that's all we're attempting to do with you guys here every time that we hop on here is be a teacher and help you guys be guided in any direction that, if we were to have found somebody in our situation and they guided us the way that we attempt to guide you guys, I would have been beyond thankful for that. So it's a very interesting perception.
Yeah, definitely. I agree, bro. And one of the things I'm working on in speaking is the pauses, because sometimes when you overrun people with information, you don't even give them time to process. You know what I mean? There's a thing in music called playing the pause.
Mm.
And it's actually no notes, but you're playing the pause because you invite them to receive a feeling and then you let it sit so that it can marinate.
I
And then
think
you keep going, you know what I mean?
that's
And
super dope because I think it makes people uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable in like you're doing something bad, but uncomfortable in like, okay, so what do you need to say next? You know?
yeah, it does. And it almost seems unintentional. Like, dang, are you good? Did
Yeah.
my phone freeze or something? Nah, but yeah, nah, it's real. And I noticed that so many times with myself because I talk so fast that sometimes I'll run out of breath. And
Yeah.
that's when I know that I'm relaying too much and I just need to let it really soak in and let somebody process it because I'm just like this and then I'm running out of breath and that's when I'm like, okay, I'm not letting these things really sink in and marinate. And it's just like music. And there's been so many things I've been learning in music that has been applying to life. Like in melody, there's stable and unstable notes.
Hmm.
And an example of a stable note would be a note that feels like home, a note that feels like you arrived somewhere. And an example of an unstable note would be some tension. You know what I mean? Something that sounds mysterious, something that sounds like it's going somewhere, but it hasn't arrived yet. And in melody and harmony, the key to music is the balance between tension and release, between stable and unstable. And I was talking to Vic earlier today, how I applied that to life is so many times everybody just wants to sit where they're stable. Let's call stable comfortability. Being stable is so comfortable. And let's call the unstable notes, let's call that the unknown. And that's what life is all about. It's a balance between having stability, but then also being able to explore the unknown. Because if we don't ever explore what we don't know, we'll never learn, we'll never grow, we'll never evolve. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I love how you can take anything in life and apply it to pretty much any arena. Because there's that law in physics. I forget what the law is, but the law in physics basically states that anything that can be applied to one arena must also be true to every other, aspect of life. You can apply it anywhere else in life. And so the way that you can bring full circle from your music and your depth of knowledge in that arena, and then you can also see how that comes in symmetrical being with everything else in your life. It's beautiful. And that topic that you hit there about, comfortability, let's talk a little bit about that. Because I was mentioning earlier when we were on the phone about how being comfortable, I had this thought the other day. I was just having internal dialogue with myself. And for some reason, one of the things that came up in my internal dialogue was comfortability is dangerous. Comfortability is very dangerous. And the reason that I believe comfortability is dangerous is because you stay so comfortable where you're at. The bills are paid, you're getting your paycheck on time, your girl loves you, you got a roof over your head, you ain't got really much to worry about. And so you become complacent within that comfortability. And I believe that a lot of men lose their drive and lose their passion for life upon becoming too comfortable. It's okay to sit down and smell the roses, but I believe that a lot of vision, a lot of drive, a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm is lost in the process of comfortability. And I've noticed that with myself. And that's why I think I've had the internal dialogue where I hadn't challenged myself in a certain manner in life for a little while. And I was like, man, I can't be getting too comfortable because just because I'm at where I'm at and I like it, I don't want to hit a plateau. And I think it's very important for me to bring this to the attention of all the men and women watching this episode that if you are where you're at, live in it, live in the moment, love it. But you also got to remind yourself of what your true goal is, what your true vision is. Because if you let yourself get too comfortable, that will lead into complacency, and complacency will lead into deterioration because you're either growing or you're dying, one of the two. that point in the middle, you can only stay in that point in the middle for so long. And so I just wanted to bring that to the attention of everybody watching this episode, is that if you're comfortable is great, but you should remind yourself of, okay, am I at where I desire to be? Is this where I see myself being for the next X amount of time? Or do I want more out of life? Because the longer you sit in that comfortability, the more difficult it will become to escape it.
Yeah, and that all ties back to what it is that you truly want. What is your goals? Because for some people, their basic needs being met is all they want and all they need. And that's great. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
That's great if that's what you want. So it's important to say that right now we're talking to people who like want to grow, want to learn, or who feel stuck. You know what I mean? You feel like you've been on a rabbit wheel just going in circles and things like that. It's probably because you've got too comfortable. And a lot of the times, and this is applicable to everything that includes skill, everything that involves skill, a lot of people are afraid of how they're going to look when they're trying. A lot of people are afraid to suck. And the reality of it is, when you're going to the next level, you're always going to suck at first, and that's the point. That's the point of growth and evolution, is that the first time you try something, unless you're just naturally talented and gifted, you're probably not going to be very good at it. Like I seen a meme the other day that said it was like a teacher or a mom or a dad pointing at a student playing the piano, and the teacher said, "Stop that. You're not good at that." And the student said, "But if I stop, I'll never be good." And I like that analogy because that's what it's all about, man. Like, don't be afraid of how you look when you're trying or in those beginning stages where your friends, your family, your mom, and the people around you don't believe in you, and they don't see any fruit of anything. But it takes roots, it takes growth, it takes time for. It's almost like, what was that tree that you said that is dormant for years and then finally pops out of the ground? That's exactly how this stuff works.
It's a bamboo species. I thought it was Japanese, but it's Chinese. I did some more research when I mentioned it. It's a Chinese bamboo species. You basically plant it, you cultivate it, and for 5 years you see absolutely nothing. But every day you must go back to the place in which you planted it and you must cultivate it every single day. And you will see absolutely nothing for 5 years. And then once you hit year five, you will see this bamboo grow for many, many feet, just instantaneous, just boom out of nowhere. And that's literally what life is.
Yeah, and that's man, that's one of the best analogies I've heard in a long time because so many people get discouraged based on what things look like externally, but I think one of the most important things to realize is it's the internal work that really makes the difference. Like, you can go to the gym and do all the sit-ups and push-ups in the world and get your physique to look right. But if you still ain't got your mind right, you're not gonna feel good. You
Mm-mm.
know, you might look good, you might got a 12 pack, you might got you might got but look, if you ain't getting your mind and your spirit, your internal right, then your physique can look great, but inside you can be, you know what I mean, still have insecurity, still doubting yourself, still being fearful, still putting yourself down with that low energy and low vibrations. So it's important that we realize the internal is what guides and directs the external. And a lot of the times, those internal wins, you don't see it externally at first, but they're more important than external wins. Because we look around and we're like, dang, I don't see nothing happening. I'm gonna just give up because I didn't see results. And it could have been that next day that boom, something happened, or you've seen those results. It's like that analogy where they say they stopped 3 feet from gold.
Yep.
There was one miner that he had the spot. He did all his calculations and he was digging. Then he gave up, and then somebody else picked up the job and kept digging, and he was right there.
Yeah, literally. Literally. And that's, stopping too early from achieving what you set out to achieve because you don't see the results in the time frame that you think you should see them. But you must remind yourself that it's not your time, it's God's time. And so if you give up on yourself too soon, it means you're not ready to get what you deserve. And one thing that came to my mind right now is, upon talking about reaching that next level and not staying too plateaued, that's for the people who feel that way. But I must remind you guys that the only thing that's better than having it all is not wanting anything. The only thing that's better than having it all is not wanting anything. Because a man who truly has no desire, that's a rich man. He has it all. So you got to decide what side of the spectrum you belong in. I unfortunately am very ambitious and I want a lot for my life. And so I can kind of envy a man who truly doesn't want anything, who truly is okay with just living. That's a rich man. So you got to decide what side of the spectrum you fall into. If you know you're an ambitious individual and you want more out of life, you're going to have to do a lot more work. But for the very far few in between people who truly don't desire anything and they just are truly happy living, you have truly found the richness of life. I must truly congratulate you for finding the richness of life because there are individuals like that. So I just wanted to point that out because I think a lot of the times, I'm very ambitious and very driven and I want more out of life and I want to make sure that I leave my footprint. I want to make sure that my legacy lives on and all these things that I want. But I also want to be able to cater towards those who are happy with where they're at, are happy with living the life that they have, living in the house that they live in, driving the car that they drive, and they're just content with the beauty of life. I also want to be able to cater towards you guys and be able to express that that's admirable. Not a lot of people can do that. So
Yeah,
kudos to
that
you.
that reminds that reminds me of like expectations of others. You said something about not having desires, but not having expectations of others is one of the most peaceful things too, because if you don't, they exceed your expectations. And if they don't let you down. You know what I mean?
It's
So
like you can only win and not lose.
yeah, you can only win and not lose.
Yeah, yeah.
And there's this thing called the let them theory that basically says, because a lot of us, we spend a lot of time, I'm on a bumpy road. We spend a lot of time trying to fix people and help people. I know I did personally, fix people. But at the end of the day, we just got to let people walk their path, let people have their journey because it's not our job and everybody's journey is different. Everybody's journey is supposed to go a different way. Not everybody's supposed to want to live like you or want to grow like you or want to do what you want to do. You know what I mean? So, and that's how it's supposed to be because we're all one on one. God made us all one on one, just like a fingerprint, just like a snowflake, whatever else. And speaking of God, God is the grand example of let them. He gave us free will. Like, so if our creator is letting us, then that should teach you something. You know what I mean? That the most important person, the one in charge of that's over this kingdom, is the grand definition of let them. Because he gave us free will, and at any moment we could go make any decision.
Yeah, that's powerful. That is very powerful. And yeah, not having expectations, that's very similar. That's very liberating, very freeing, because I think that some of the most important times of when I can remember that somebody else did hurt me or I felt some type of way had to do with the fact that I held a certain expectation over that person and they didn't meet my expectation. And therefore, I was hurt over that. But if you think about it, it wasn't their fault. It was my fault because I held an expectation over them. And who am I to tell them who they should be or how they should act? And then I learned the hard way that I just got to let people be people. I just got to let people be people because at the end of the day, people are going to show you exactly who they are. So when somebody tells you who they are, you should believe them. I learned that the hard way. I used to try and change people left, change people right. I used to try to just show them what worked for me. And I used to get mad and upset about the fact that, like, man, I just told you if you would have done this, your life would have been good. And you chose to not do it. And now my expectations of, and I think that that's part of me just being, I've become very stoic over the years. I've become very stoic over the years. You know, I don't talk, I don't say a lot. Like I'm more of a listener. And then when I have some valuable things to add to that, I'll then add it to it. But I'm very stoic over other people's decisions. I'm stoic over, I can't let my life or my day be brought down because of your inadequacies or because of your decisions or because of the way that you choose to live your life. Like Zay said, everybody's got their own path and they're going to walk it. And so if you're one of those people who are always trying to seek the better for everybody around them and the people around you don't want that, Isaiah said something very interesting the other day. He said, you do people a disservice by trying to help them sometimes. You do them a disservice by trying to help them sometimes. And I had to sit and think about what he meant by that. And then when he broke it down, he talked about how some people are not ready to listen or digest the information that it is that you have to give them. If you gave somebody the information too early and they weren't the person who was yet meant to hear that information, it could fuck them up. And it really made me think about how sometimes some of the information that I try to give to people is too much for them to even comprehend right now. They're not even at that level yet. They're like their way of thinking is down here, and the information I'm giving them is like way up here. And it's like, trying to make a baby who has no teeth chew some steak. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Or a newborn trying to teach a newborn how to walk.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly.
They're not ready to walk yet, and that's
Yeah.
fine. You know what I mean? Let Timmy take his time.
Yeah.
Don't be trying to get him a walker at 2 months. Let him grow a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's all fun. It's all fun, especially when you just, like you say, become more an observer. Just sit back and watch this shit unfold because it's all so divine in nature, and it's a divine orchestration, and every puzzle piece just comes together. Everybody's being pulled in different directions for different reasons, and it all just fits together, and it's so beautiful when you can just sit back and observe. Like people at work that ask me, "Oh, what are you doing?" Or I say, "I'm just sitting back and watching the show, bro. This shit is a comedy show to me." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just sitting back and I'm just having fun just watching this stuff because people get so caught up in it emotionally or mentally or physically, and at some point in your spiritual journey you realize that this shit don't matter. This shit don't matter. I refuse to let a 5 second something mess up my day or let one comment from somebody move me. You know what I mean? Like I write about uh I write about the subject in my book, being unmoved. Like, don't let nobody externally move you. Don't let them move you inside, because nobody can make you feel superior or inferior without your permission. I give the best example. If somebody on the street were to come up to me and be like, "Hey, you're a hoe," and most people would be ready to fight. You know what I mean? Most people, "Oh, I ain't this, I ain't that." I wouldn't even be moved because number one, I know who I am, and that's all that matters. You know who you are. You ain't got to worry about what the next person thinks, what they saying, what they doing. All that shit is irrelevant. You know what I mean? A lot of the times, people lose their life, their freedom, their identity. They lose. everything. They lose it all just over what? Over a comment.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. I've always thought it was stupid for people to just lose their life. Believe it or not, and this reminds me of a story. I don't ever watch the news, but my girl told me about this. I try to tell her not to watch the news, but sometimes she just be watching that shit, and then she comes and tells me that shit, and I'm like, I don't want to hear that shit. But she was telling me about how this like third, I don't know how old they were, but they're a teenager. This guy got life in prison because somebody tried to take his Gucci belt at school. They told him take that shit off, and instead of taking that shit off, he ended up shooting these guys over a Gucci belt. And so that pride of I'm not a bitch, fuck all that shit. I'm not a bitch. You ain't gonna take my belt, this, that, and the third. You ended up killing that other person. And even though you felt you were in the right because you didn't go to look for trouble, trouble came to find you. You gave the rest of your life, your essence, and your existence to the system because you decided to prove a point by shooting that person. It's almost like comical that somebody would literally trade their life, their essence, their being for the rest of their time that they're on this earth over a fucking belt. And this happens every day where people lose their life, their essence, and who they are to try and prove a point that they don't need to prove to anybody. I always tell people I'm a lover, I'm not a fighter. The only time that you're gonna find an altercation with me is if you put my family in danger, or if you're doing something that's gonna affect my kids or my family in any way, shape, or form, then you're gonna find another side of me. But if you're just stupidly just trying to say some stupid shit to me, go on with your day, bro. Go on with your day. I might say some slick ass remark, but I for sure not. I'm not gonna go fight you or anything, because a lot of people try to like glorify fighting like in the streets, and to me that's stupid. Because they like I if I ever ran into somebody who don't got shit to lose, that person is dangerous, bro, because they literally have nothing to lose. I got everything to lose. These guys, you catch somebody who don't got nothing to lose on a bad day, I feel bad for you.
Hey, I'm gonna say you got it. Hey,
Yeah,
got it.
you got it, bro.
Whatever you want. Hey, you
Yep,
got it.
take it.
Hey, you got it, bro. I got a purpose. I got shit to do out here. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You got it, bro. And I was telling my cousin this the other day. We was talking about kind of that same subject, and I was telling him I've never seen a brawler, a stabber, a squeezer, like somebody who really shoots at people. I've never seen somebody, a fighter, a shooter, or a stabber who has never got anything back, who has been in the streets longer than at least like 3 to 5 years. I've never seen somebody who was untouched.
No, never.
And that's just like the laws of karma and cause and effect. And it takes effect, it takes full effect no matter what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
What you give, you will see one way or another. You know what I mean? And it don't matter. You could have the most hands in the world. You could be the realest in the world. You could do this, do that, and the third, but there's always a way. Karma's gonna find a way for that infliction to come back in some way, shape, or form. And what's more important is sometimes it doesn't come back to you. Sometimes it comes back to your kids or somebody you care about, or
Mhm.
something even worse, because some people just head is so thick that they don't get it, that they got to see their kid go through their karma now.
A hard head makes a soft ass, bro. That's a fact.
And God's like, okay, you don't get it. Let me see if you get it this way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And everybody's out here trying to be tough guys. I'm not trying to be tough guy. I'm trying to be rich. So I, I don't give a fuck about proving you right or proving you wrong or whatever the scenario might be. My dad always taught me to mind my business and never go out and seek trouble or bother any other man. Be a man of due diligence, show respect, give respect. And the only time that fighting comes or violence is gonna be if that's the last alternative towards it.
I
Other
got I
than
got to
that,
say, it's like they say, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden
Then a gardener in a war.
than a gardener in a war.
Yep.
And that's why I say the line, like, spread peace, but prepare for war.
Yep.
Because you never know what will come knocking on your door. You feel me? So we're not saying that you just got to be this jelly roll out here. You know what I mean? But what we're saying is that peace should be the first choice. And I've always been a de-escalator. I'm always the cool one. The hey, calm down. We don't want to do that. We're just trying to have a good time. Because what I noticed is similar energies attract each other. So say you're going out with your friends, and you got this one friend who gets drunk and gets angry, starts mean mugging people, starts looking people up and down, hitting shoulders with people, stepping on people's toes. They just looking for it. They just asking for it. Well, guess what? The angry person in that group across the room, once they lock eyes, it's over.
Yep.
It's over. You know what I mean? Or once he shoulder bumps the wrong person or steps on the wrong person's shoes, it's a wrap. And like energies do attract. It's like a magnetic thing. It's a magnetic pull. Like if that guy's angry over there and you're angry over here, even if people don't show it internally, energy is internal. You know what I mean? So, bro, I done seen that shit collide. I've seen energies collide, bro. Not just attract. I've seen them collide.
Yeah, that's a fact. And we're not sitting here and telling you to be a cupcake and be a pushover. Jordan Peterson explained it phenomenally, and it made so much sense to me. He said a man should be a monster. Every man should be a monster, and they should be able to control that. And so you should be able to have the capability to do a lot of harm, but choose to not do it. That's what is representative of a man. A man is not somebody who can't do any harm because they simply can't. That's a lack of a man. A man is a essence that is capable of a lot of harm, but chooses to restrain from that. That made a lot of sense to me. So I'm not sitting here telling you guys to be pushovers or anything like that. I'm saying that your first option should always be to be passive, to be understanding.
And just,
Go
and
ahead.
just and we're just speaking on emotional intelligence in general and managing your fire, managing your emotions. Because if you do have that fire in you, that's great. Now we just need to direct that fire towards something positive or something constructive rather than something destructive. Because it's the quiet ones, it's the peaceful ones that you got to worry about. It's not the ones running their mouth across the room or I done this, I done did that. It's the one with their back to the wall, not saying a word. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yeah,
That's
that's a
that's
fact.
really
And
that's really the danger.
especially with that's one thing that I'm working with my son right now, because my son, he's got a lot of my attitude, and so he'll get angry, and when he gets angry, he's damn near shaking. And one thing that I'm working on with him is, hey, we control our emotions. Breathe in, breathe out, let it go. Okay, now talk to me with clarity. And I think that's if you guys have kids, especially young boys, you need to teach them that, because if you don't teach them that, I think that man will become a very dangerous man. A man who has no capacity to be able to control their emotions and to be able to say, I feel angry, but that does not mean I'm going to go do some stupid shit. You need to be able to control yourself. You need to be able to be a monster and choose to be passive, because you know the harm that you're capable of, yet you understand that you don't want to pass that on to anybody unless it's your last resource. So that's all we're saying, guys. But control your emotions. It's emotional intelligence, as he was saying, and you got to be able to understand that anything that comes your way likely is just a test of who you are as a man or as a person, as a woman. That's the character that's within you, and you're not always going to be perfect with it. Trust me. There's times where I have got angry and I've said some stuff where I'm like, man, I should not have said that, but I can come back and recognize it, apologize, and make dues if I have to. But once you've already crossed that line, sometimes it's too late to come back from that. So be emotionally intelligent, guys. Emotionally intelligent.
Now, what does it say how much time we have left?
Yeah, I think we got about, let's see. Yep, we're it's about time we wrapped it up. So if you got to leave our audience with one thing today on this episode, what do you leave them with?
Learn from nature. Whether it's an animal, whether it's a plant, whether it's the weather, whether it's the clouds, whether it's space, whether it's gravity. Sometimes lessons don't, a lot of the time, hey, lessons don't have to come from people, you know? Learn from nature. And that's what I got. Because that's a gem right there.
That's a huge gem. I love nature so much. I love animals. I love the weather. Like there's so much you can learn from it. I'm a very philosophical guy, so it really just I soak that information up. And if I got to leave you guys with one last thing, it is your frequency is what you frequently see. Your frequency is what you frequently see. And so if you want to know what level of frequency you're operating off of, just understand what your everyday life is looking like. If you're encountering problems, situations, or people that you don't want or make you angry or make you feel bad or negative, that's because that's the frequency that you're operating off of. Like Isaiah was saying a little bit earlier when he mentioned that these energies, they attract each other. They genuinely do because that's the frequency you're operating off of. And so you're inviting more of that energy to come around your surroundings. And so that's what you're going to encounter. And if you see things in your life that you don't want, it's because you're on that frequency. And so you need to elevate that frequency in order for you to be able to have a new surrounding or a state of mind, or to be able to interpret things the way you want to interpret them. So your frequency equals what you frequently see, guys. So focus on whatever it is that you're seeing. And if you're not seeing good, change that because you can. All righty. That about does it for this episode, guys. Thank you for tapping in with us. As always, like, comment, share, subscribe, and make sure that you're out here applying this information, because success is not what you know. Success is what you do with what you know, guys. All righty. Peace.